Quick reminder that the description has a link to a resource website that you can use to help contribute to ongoing Black Lives Matter organizations. You can do a myriad of things like donate to bail funds or sign petitions, all of which go a long way to fighting systemic racism. Thank you very much for your time. Hello everyone, GoldenNova here. How many times can I thank you all before I start to sound disingenuous? I hope I'm nowhere near close to that amount because, really, thank you all so much for showing your support. From field test to dream theme, we've done a lot of fun stuff over the last year, and I can't wait to do even more. And that includes more top 10 lists. Presenting GoldenNova's top 10 monsters with 500 attack points. But first, some housekeeping. To keep this video compliant with the rules and regulations laid out by the Online Opinions Protection Services, OOPS requires me to preface any top 10 video with the disclaimer that the content, and the sequencing thereof, is based solely on my own opinion. While power level and historical context do play a part in said opinion, it'll be graded alongside other ephemeral qualities, like silliness, coolness, and the amount of hours they put into perfecting their 100% speedrun of Dance Central, DLC included. Also, quick reminder to please subscribe and like if you've enjoyed my content so far. These videos are a celebration of how far we've come, and there's still a long way to go yet. Thank you very much for your help. So, with that out of the way, let's move on to the list. Honorable mention, all the desk bots. Desk bot, everybody loves desk bots. Okay, but seriously, desk bots 1 and 3 have seen some pretty incredible competitive play recently, as 3 is a 1-card Auroradon combo, propped up by Palcafibrax. In fact, the synergy is absolutely uncanny, since the Auroradon tokens actually trigger one's effect Engrave to revive itself. You can even have 2 of them yarded by that point to make a full field of 6 monsters off of 1 normal summon. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty spiteful about the fact that my office supply soldiers had been folded into decks like Adamancipator and Eldritch when they're still waiting for their moment to shine. They even use them better than within their own theme. So they get a spot on this list just because of that. But seriously, the deck is super fun. It has a lot of flexible play sequences, Machine Duplication is a crazy good spell, and it can OTK out of nowhere. Seriously, the deck is pennies, and if we don't get a 100 series of death spots in the future, I will set fire to the— Number 10. Danger Jackalope. Don't you love it when good cards are cute? Danger's impacted the meta almost immediately upon release. While the modal effects were random, good deck building could turn this uncertainty into an advantage. Either you had cards that you wanted to discard, in which case you could get them online while netting you a draw and a special summon, or you could discard the Bunny Rabbit to get a 3000 attack beater, or a wiggly little hazard noodle for material. At full power, running a playset of Jackalope paired with Nessie and Tsuchinoko was a staple of any combo deck looking to assemble material for powerful extra deck monsters while also being able to dig for those essential combo pieces. In fact, they were so good at this that they provided the speed and advantage necessary to kick off the dreaded Danger Dark World FTK. It may look like an adorable green fuzzball, but if you let these appearances fool you, then you don't know Jack. Elope. Number 9, Shiranui Solitaire. A master of social distancing long before it became the norm, this solitary sage has had much time to practice the art of being the 1-card enabler for its associated type. While making the list, I found it funny that both Solitaire and Lone Fire Blossom were both fire attribute summoning bodies for their respective types, and had 500 attack. And while I haven't been shy about grouping multiple monsters into the same spot before, I felt that Solitaire and Lone Fire accessed such different cards that I couldn't justify it this time around. And when it came down to picking the 2, it was rough, but I had to give it to Solitaire. While Lone Fire has a much wider array of targets, all plant monsters as opposed to zombies that are tuners and also have 0 defense, I find that what you can get with Solitaire is much more impactful nowadays. This could easily change once a new plant archetype comes out. Once a new plant archetype comes out that you can splash good stuff into, this could easily be swapped. But as of now, being able to access a Foolish Burial and a discard outlet on legs, while also loading up your grave to take advantage of the great revival effects afforded to zombies, is just too hard to pass up. So think of Lone Fire as having an honorary 9th place position. Is that a thing? And should Eldritch start taking a hit on the ban list once, we start getting actual ban lists again, they may need to seek guidance from this pious powerhouse. Number 8, Baby Cerosaurus and Petite Pteranodon. Yeah, this is one of those groupings I was talking about, but seriously, the pool of good monsters this time around was huge. And since they have a similar enough role in the theme, I figured they should go together on the list. That being said, Dino Smasher's Fury is probably the most impactful structure deck we've ever had. It single-handedly revitalized dinosaurs in the competitive meta, and cemented themselves as a powerful combo aggro strategy that managed to attack the opposition in ways that hadn't been done before and were difficult to circumvent. Which, makes sense when you arm your boss monster with a one-sided Book of Eclipse that you can activate every turn, and a hand trap that makes your monsters shrug off effects that you can search with a Rhoda. Most of, if not all of, the monsters of the Neo-Dinosaur Renaissance revolve around destroying your own monsters as part of resolving powerful effects, and because of this, they really owe their continued effectiveness to the Toddler team. Whether it be Oviraptor activating its revival effect, to Dragonic Diagram smoothing out your True Draco synergies, Baby Ceresaurus and Petit Pteranodon continue to keep their battle lines stocked up with big bodies and combo enablers to overwhelm their opponent with attack power and card economy. And since neither of them have a hard once per turn clause attached, you can keep cracking those eggs over and over for that sweet Yoki advantage. Number 7, Insector Hornet. Oh man, this is a blast from the past. Insects don't get much time in the competitive spotlight. I mean, look what they did to poor crawlers. But when they do, you get stuff like Insectors, and it gets messy. These Common Rider lookalikes by way of Entomology class really leaned into the idea of using monsters as equip cards, and while they can be sorted into a number of different categories, arguably the three most important are Centipede, Dragonfly, and Hornet. The former two can search an Insector card or summon an Insector monster from the deck respectively whenever an equip card attached to them is sent to the grave. But while they're more than capable of equipping their comrades from the hand or graveyard to themselves, they lack a way to detach those equips quite as readily. That's where Hornet comes in. While they aren't the only Insector that can detach themselves as an equip card, their ability to destroy any card on the field while doing so makes them the most impactful. They also lack a hard once per turn clause as well, so you can summon a Dragonfly, attach the Hornet, pop a card, summon a Centipede, attach the Hornet to them, blow up another card, and then search another Dragonfly to do it all over again next turn, with all of that snowballing out of control the longer your opponent lets you get away with it. And while the deck hasn't done much since the unlimiting of its best cards, the fact they were on the list for so long is merit enough to get Hornet on this list, and things keep looking up for the Bug Brigade. They have a new themed Link monster that can help assemble those pieces more easily, as well as Union Carrier. Parasite Paranoid can act as a hand trap against targeted effects, and Cocoon of Ultra Evolution can be used for a variety of neat tricks, from straight up summoning another Insector that you might need, to dodging an Infinite Impermanence. Now if only Necroquip Prism didn't stop you from activating Hornet the turn you used it. That'd be the bee's knees. Number 6, Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. Aw man, this makes me want to do a Mega Man Legends joke so bad. Spellbook Magician of Prophecy, affectionately nicknamed Blue Boy, has been a staple of spellcaster decks looking to accrue advantage early and often. What makes him so unique among searchers is that the pool of cards he can grab, spellbooks, all support spellcasters generically, despite the Prophecy archetype being heavily tied to them, both narratively and mechanically. But every time a new spellcaster theme is introduced, Blue Boy and his associated library of tomes have to be considered for inclusion. With the release of Spellbook of Knowledge, the Sad Magician becomes a pretty neat little draw engine. Search them with secrets, normal summon them to get knowledge, then cart Blue Boy off to the grave to draw 2, effectively giving you the same card advantage as a Pot of Greed at the cost of your normal summon. So if your deck doesn't really need that, it's an easy include. Oh, hello every Pendulum archetype that's been good in recent memory, what are you doing here? Number 5, Cherubini, Ebon Angel of the Burning Abyss. When I saw this on the lineup, I knew it had to make the list. Burning Abyss may not have been the deck most hurt by Master Rule 4, but it certainly took a beating. With only one extra monster zone and little chance for Dante spamming, the deck had to resort to Decode Talker with Dante at link point as its big play. And while surprisingly effective against some setups, it wasn't going to get them past True Draco Zoo anytime soon. So when news dropped about a Link monster for the theme that would also protect the Malabranches, relieving the deck of its only real drawback, I flipped my lid. And if that's all it did, it'd already make a great addition to the deck, but it kept piling things on to make it even better. The Effect Destruction immunity could be provided to any monster that it pointed to, and it could protect itself by sending any other card on your field to the grave if it'd be destroyed. But wait, there's even more. You get to Foolish a level 3 monster from your deck every turn, which includes any of the Malabranches, to boost any targeted Burning Abyss monster by the sent monster's attack points, letting your Dante finally get over that 2500 attack point hurdle that had been hounding it for so long! While Seer and Graph may still be limited, the deck continues to get tools to help it mobilize its main forces, and with level 3 monster with a good effect being the only real qualifier to be considered for the deck, The next piece of tech for the theme is always just one new release away from making it one hell of a deck to play once again. Number 4, Infernoid Decadron. But I've got to give a higher spot to the other Fiend-type Graveyard Matters deck in contention. Back when Infernoid was revealed, I was highly skeptical. A theme where you have to banish your own members to summon them, but you have to get them in the grave somehow to do it first? That'll never work. But, time and time again, I was proven heinously wrong. If Burning Abyss was the reserved mill player's deck, you know, mill 3 every so often, see what you get, plan from there, the Infernoid deck was the turbo version, running crazy cards like Reasoning, That Grass Looks Greener, Left Arm Offering, anything that would let them flip half their deck into the grave so they could go off. But among those cards was a single normal summonable monster that would prove to be the deck's biggest asset, Infernoid Decadron. Acting as a catch-all for the theme, you could foolish any Infernoid from your deck on summon, at which point Decadron would increase its level by the level of the sent monster, and take on its name and effects. This meant that negation bodies like Anunku and Deviati were never far from reach, and could be set up for summon in later turns. Or, you could grab problem solvers like Petrulia and Antra. You could even just send a monster for level modulation purposes, because on top of everything else, it's also a tuner. Go figure. Decatron is a powerful monster for unlocking a crazy powerful deck, and adds a sub-game to any tournament that they're prevalent in that purveyors of Domino's Pizza will be familiar with. Avoid the Noid. Number 3, Predaplant Verte Anaconda. Is everyone else dreading the arrival of Red Eye's Dark Dragoon? I know I am. And it's a damn shame because I was really looking forward to a lot of decks using Verte Anaconda as a fun way to resolve fusion spells. Sure, the cost is steep, a big 2,000 life point loss and locking yourself out of special summons for the rest of the turn, but if your deck lives or dies on how many of those spells you can resolve, being able to convert any 2 effect monsters into that spell is a godsend. However, because any amount of leniency in design will be taken advantage of the second the opportunity presents itself, yes, I am still salty about Auroradon Despots, decks that have no relation to the fusion mechanic will now have access to one of the most powerful, resilient boss monsters ever printed. And you can't just get rid of Dragoon to fix it, because then people will just pivot to Neos fusion, and while Rainbow Neos isn't nearly as bad, its effect is still devastatingly powerful if allowed to resolve, so things are looking a little bleak for the Leafy Link 2. However, despite the likelihood of banning growing higher by the day, that kind of cements its place on the list. On top of enabling cards like Cyberload Fusion, Shadal Fusion, and Super Polymerization, being able to effortlessly field such gigantic juggernauts easily makes this card the apex Predaplant. Number 2, Spiral Quickfix. Has there ever been a deck with a better glow-up than Spirals? Well, quite literally any deck with a glow-up bulb in it, but that's not the point. With the release of Spiral Double Helix, combined with the then unbanned Firewall Dragon, the Super Spies took the meta by storm. Previously, effects that were good but didn't have the support structure to get them over the top were being used to close out games with impunity, and one of the most egregious examples of this was Spiral Quickfix. Another example of why it's dangerous to not have a hard once per turn clause on your monsters, a searcher that once only grabbed a revival equipped spell and a utility monster ended up as a way to grab a themed Phoenix Wing Windblast at no cost, and an equipped monster that enabled a super threatening monster that was basically Icarus attack at no cost. Could you use machine duplication on it to get even more searches and material for Double Helix? Of course you could! Could you pitch any spare Spiral missions in hand to revive it while you had that Double Helix on board to get even more searches? Of course you could! Would you end up banishing that quick fix because you ended up using it as material for something? Well, no, because you could just make a rank 1 with it and bypass the only drawback. One could argue that, after the limiting of quick fix, Spirals got back into the game purely because Magician Souls worked as a pseudo quick fix, dumping missions to the grave for that sweet card advantage before being leveraged into another summon. Quick Fix was arguably the fuel that powered an engine that fielded a number of negates and interactions with little to no investment. So the question at this point is, what could possibly exist to top this super scientist? Number 1. Many factors have changed Yu-Gi-Oh! Over the years. Cyber Dragon is credited for ending a slower era of the game where tempo and resource management were key. Duelist Alliance set the stage for a number of themes that would grow advantage exponentially if left unchecked. But I think another innovation of the game that isn't touched on quite as much, but is no less important, is the proliferation of hand traps. While Karibo is the first to technically fit this mold, hand traps as we know them today wouldn't be printed until the late 2000s with the introduction of DD Crow. And much like how that absurd avian atrocity made the #1 spot for the top 100 attack monster video, hand traps can end up being so powerful that they can define entire formats. They're arguably the reason why Called by the Grave exists in the first place. And of all the hand traps in the game, there's one that stands head and shoulders above the rest, despite being small enough to fit under your entertainment center. So large and imposing that it can't possibly be missed, and yet you can't see it with the naked eye. And that hand trap to end all hand traps is none other than Maxie. One of the most controversial cards in all of Yu-Gi-Oh!, Maxie is likely the biggest reason for the format divergence between the OCG and the TCG, second only to the forbidden and limited lists of each region. Can you believe that this card, in the state the game is in right now, where special summoning is the most important thing you can do, has a hand trap that lets you draw every time your opponent does that at 3 in the OCG? Imagine seeing an Adamancipator opponent begin to combo off and you drop the bug. A lot of games would probably end a lot differently, especially with the threat of drawing a Nibiru off the top. But that gets to the heart of why this card is so divisive. A card that can be used to oppose the best deck of the format can also be used to combat the mirror, or even the rogue decks attempting to overcome it. Maxie could easily be used as a way to widen the gap between meta and rogue instead of close it. But with so many counters for it running around, like the aforementioned Called by the Grave or Ash Blossom, would it see the same level of impact as it does now? As someone who doesn't have a solid grasp of the OCG metagame, I can't comment too much on how it's working out for them, but I would surmise that its 3-0 status for so long hasn't caused the game to crash and burn just yet. But due to the other differences made by the forbidden and limited lists, who could say if it would affect the TCG in the same way? There's so much to talk about and discuss when it comes to Maxie, and combined with its ability to decide games all on its own, I'm proud to announce that Maxie is the absolute best monster in Yu-Gi-Oh! With 500 attack points. And that's the list. Do you have any monsters you feel should have made the list? Maybe one you felt should have been ranked higher or lower? And is there anything you're looking forward to seeing on the channel in the future? Let me know in the comments, and once again, a big thank you to everyone who stuck around with me so far. Also, if you're watching this on the day of upload, make sure to check out the Q&A announcement video and leave any questions you'd like to see answered there. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.